Somebody You Love is recorded and edited on the lands of the Darug and Gundungurra and Gambri and Ngunnawal peoples. This land was stolen and sovereignty was never ceded. It always was and always will be Aboriginal land. Just a reminder that while we, of course, are very grateful that you are tuning in to listen to us, please make sure that you are listening to a wide range of voices from the sex work community, because Holly and I do not represent anywhere near the breadth of diversity that is present across it. Welcome to Somebody You Love, or The Sale of Two Titties. I'm Jenna Love.
And I'm Holly Hart.
And we're experts in disappointing our parents, breaching community guidelines, and banging the people who vote against our rights.
It wouldn't have escaped anyone's attention that media in the modern age is all about clicks. If you've even glanced at the major news websites or social media, you've seen headlines crafted with this goal in mind. They often target curiosity, anger, and fear to get readers to engage. And what better fodder to elicit these emotions than sex work? Writing scandalous headlines to grab readers isn't new, but we wanted to draw attention to some of the nuances of this kind of reporting as it applies to sex work itself. In a world which is arguably, in a lot of ways and in a lot of places, becoming more open-minded about the industry, we're seeing an increase in, quote, sex work positive articles. They're posed as sympathetic, and sex workers are approached under the guise of telling their story. The added potential benefit for many workers is exposure to broaden their client base and or increase subscribers to their online content. Unfortunately, there is a conflict when the interests of the media, clicks at any cost, compete with the interests of the sex worker to not be endangered. Stories get warped through a lens of what is most exciting. Inflated earnings, catastrophic family drama, dangerous incidents, anything that is sensational, scandalous and juicy. Sometimes this works out great for the sex worker and sometimes it really, really doesn't. Today we're going to have a chat about this phenomenon, including some of the experiences that Jenna has personally had, and see where media outlets might be perpetrators of exploitation disguised as collaborative activism.
Yeah, so I'm going to share a couple of stories of my own personal experience with you. Throughout this episode, we're going to do some de-identifying. Hopefully Mr. Love doesn't have to edit in any bleeps and we're able to kind of self-censor as we go. But as you know, I hate it. I hate any kind of censorship really, because I think it's bullshit. But we kind of need to, because people be suing.
Yeah.
People be litigious, So I'm going to take us back to 2020, the golden years. What's the opposite of the golden years? The dark years, the dark times. And at that time, I was contacted by the CEO of Scarlet Alliance. I'd already done a fair bit of media, or a little bit of media, I guess. And the CEO contacted me and asked if I would do an interview with a journalist from a particular publication. Now, this publication does not have a good reputation. I would say it's the one that in Australia, if people are trying to talk down about the media or talk or kind of scrutinize a source, they would say it's from this newspaper, right? So going in, we absolutely knew that this was not going to be an example of good representation. But I think perhaps what not everyone realizes is that journalists, well, a lot of journalists, I guess not the really great ones, but
hashtag not all journalists.
Yes. But a lot of journalists will basically pitch a story. I do feel for them, because the timelines are absurd. They will pitch a story in the morning and it's due the next morning. It's absolutely bonkers. But, that's probably the extent of the empathy that I'll give them for the rest of the episode. There are some good ones out there, genuinely, though. But the thing is that they will pitch a story and then they will go and they will find the people who can fulfill the roles in their story, who can play the characters in that story. And if you don't play the role how they want you to, if you don't follow the script that they've already got sort of planned out, generally either the story will get pulled, but that doesn't tend to happen. Usually what happens is they'll go find somebody who will. The chances of you actually stopping a story from coming out are really, really slim. It's not something I've had experience with. So often, particularly, when they contact an organisation or when they contact experts in the field, that sort of thing, you're in this position where you have to decide, well, do we say yes to this in the attempt to try and do as much damage control as possible and make sure that they're not going to somebody in the industry who doesn't have a strong support system around them and isn't, doesn't have a really thick skin and is used to being, thrown bullshit on the internet like I am, for instance. Or do I step aside and not do it and then the story doesn't even have the element of damage control that I might be able to bring to it. So I went into this not expecting it to be good, to be clear, right? I wasn't naive. So I wasn't going in with high hopes. Now, the article is currently behind a paywall, which actually, great. I mean, I'm a fan of that because most people aren't going to see it, so that's good. Obviously, I was not going to give them $4 of my dick-sucking money, but I did the benefit of hindsight. No, not the benefit of foresight. I copied and pasted the article when it first went live. So I did this little process of going through and highlighting the sections of the article that either didn't happen, that just did not happen, that I either never would have said because they are words and phrasings that just aren't really in my vocabulary in the way that I speak, or are literally the exact opposite of what I said. And it's like 75% yellow, the page. Now, I feel like listeners are thinking, Jenna, media's fake, like, duh, is this your first year on the planet, And also, this is what media training's for. And I hear that from a lot of people whenever I complain about media stuff is you've got to do media training. And I have done some media training. But I went into this, I go into all speaking to media with the knowledge and prepared for my words to be taken out of context. Absolutely. I was prepared for them to be twisted and to be smushed into an agenda. And so I used my words carefully, right? What I didn't know until this moment is that they can actually just completely fabricate things, put a random series of words together, chuck quotation marks around it, and say that you said it. And if you're not Johnny Depp, then you don't get any recourse for that sort of thing. It's just, they essentially just have, impunity. So I'm going to go through some of the most egregious examples. We would be here all day if I went through line by line. The article, obviously the story that they wanted to tell was that sex workers make heaps of money online and that COVID's the best thing that ever happened to the sex industry. Obviously, the reality is so far removed from that. So the byline says, when demand dropped during the COVID-19 pandemic, sex worker Jenna Love reinvented herself, becoming a virtual escort for all the lonely hearts, doubling her business. So, okay, this whole thing, I was being interviewed about sex workers having to adjust to moving their business online during COVID because, of course, we couldn't do in-person work. Now, I think I've made it clear on this podcast that I love my spreadsheets and my stats, so I had all of that. And what I made very clear was that pre-COVID, a maximum of 20% of my income came from online services. So restrictions coming in and me stopping my in-person work meant that I lost 80% of my business, of my income overnight, like that. I mean, I was very grateful that it wasn't 100%, right? But still, 80% gone. Somehow, that in this article turned into me doubling my business. Like, I don't even know how to, and now I'm not, this is not me saying poor me. I was absolutely not the worst one affected. But I was affected. And the last thing I needed was, I had a few regular clients who were sending me through little beams throughout COVID, knowing, you're having a hard time, here you go. the last thing I needed was them reading this and going, oh, she's fucking rolling in it. Like, cool. I won't bother helping her out because I needed that support because I was having a hard time like we all were. And it certainly wasn't the messaging that the industry needed. The old, oh, you just get on OnlyFans and you'll make shit tons of money. Like, for a million reasons, that's not useful info to have out there. But especially during COVID, when the industry became so much more saturated than it had ever been, because you had both in-person only workers jumping onto subscription sites and you had civilians doing sex work for the first time. So we don't want more people doing that. Then the first line of the article says, peering through the estate agency windows at the advertised houses for sale, Jenna Love fantasizes over the idyllic, rambling rural property in the rugged west of Sydney's Blue Mountains. Like, bitch, what? The interview happened over the phone. Like, what are you talking about? And I can tell you that real estate agencies absolutely do not enter into my fantasies. Okay? There's nothing like, what the fuck? So that's just a completely random made up thing. And again, like, it's not terrible that was said about me. I don't particularly feel hard done by, but this was it's just such I think, an illustrative way of demonstrating just how we all know it's fake, right? I just don't know if we realize just how fake it is. Let's see, some other quotes I've pulled out. Jenna is an independent sex worker whose flame-coloured locks, soft physique and affable nature, I'm okay with that, I'll take the compliments, mean that she charges up to $500 an hour selling sex virtually. No, not true. I think my rate at the time, my hourly in-person escorting rate, was $500 an hour. So that's where they've pulled that number from. But I certainly wasn't charging anywhere near that for the online stuff. I'm still not now. And my rates have increased quite a lot since then. And there's just no way I could. There's not a big market for $500 an hour of virtual stuff. There's not a huge market. I'm sure some people are charging it and earning it, but there's no way. And especially in a time when I was like, I need to make some money, there's just no way that would have made any sense. She said, quote, with the coronavirus, demand for in-person work dried up overnight, which I just think is amusing because it actually didn't. Most of us stopped working, but the demand actually didn't. Well, I mean, it reduced, but it certainly didn't dry up. I have screenshots of messages that I received during COVID of people trying to bang me and me being like, are you fucking serious? One of the lines said that I became a sex work, which is quite funny. So I just became
obviously
singular,
you already
a sex
yeah
work.
Obviously you already were a sex work.
Obviously.
Yeah.
But apparently I became
You
a
just
sex work,
became one.
so
Crazy.
I just became one. One of the quotes says, a sugar daddy paid her $600 just to be friends for 1 week. What the fuck?
Where did that come from?
What? Absolutely not. That's not. I remember that the journalist asked about my first encounter in the industry. Very common. And I know these things. I know the way I frame these things because a lot of the journalists ask the same questions again and again. So it's not word for word, but I've got my canned answers. I know what my answers are, particularly to things that are advocacy points where I'm prepared for those responses. So my first encounter, I was paid $150 for 2 hours of fucking. And somehow that's turned into $600 for a week of being friends with someone? What the fuck? Like, what are you fucking talking about? One of the quotes attributed to me says, I'm not your typical sex worker, which is so cringe. I would never say that. I absolutely am your typical sex worker. Like, what? Yes, I am. And the line, I'll wrap it up here. There's more, but fuck. The line that killed me was, quote, online, you get to know clients better. The tough part, though, is trying not to fall in love.
Oh, fuck off.
What? What? What is happening?
Also,
just, of course,
I love you guys. I love our clients, but I was only recently, Jenna and I were talking about how poorly men can portray themselves online. If you're going to fall in love with a dude, it's going to be in person, not with the way a man presents
100%.
himself on the internet. Men, we love you, but God, sometimes you're bad at representing yourselves on the internet.
They really are.
None of that is true, but the idea that somehow there's some magical thing about doing this online that makes it romantic, that's so weird. That's so weird.
I've got to try, like I'm actively, it's hard work because
fighting.
I've just got to really try not to fall in love.
Wow.
What? Yeah,
That's
I just
so out of
crazy.
pocket.
And online, you get to know clients better.
Yeah, what?
What do you mean? That's everyone knows that's not true. What are you talking about? So that was
weird.
crazy. There was all sorts of inaccurate stuff about my husband in there.
Oh, God.
They said, sorry, I am pulling more out. Oh, so there was another line about the love was the good thing for me is that there's less wear and tear on the body, which I would never say. What the fuck? Especially like if you're doing a sexy video call, it's like a different cut. Like you end up with sore muscles the next day because you're trying to contort yourself into the camera view. Like it's quite difficult. Sorry, there's less wear and tear on the body and you don't get COVID because there's no touching or kissing. I mean, sure, that's not factual, but I really hope I didn't say those words because what the fuck? But the bad news is you can sometimes fall for the lovely ones. What? So twice she said in this article that I'm the problem is I keep falling in love with my clients. Like, so can you not put that out there? Like, can you just not A, perpetuate the pretty woman stereotype for the whole industry, and B, make it out that I'm the kind, like, if you are looking to fall in love with an escort, go to this one because she's a sucker for it. Like, what the fuck? Can you not do that to me? Oh yeah. Okay. Oh, sorry. Now I've got to keep going. I'm sorry. In sexually liberal Sydney, brothels, strip clubs and massage parlours abound. But in fluctuating times, particularly during COVID, Jenna earns enough to work the circuit from the privacy of her home or hotels. So this whole thing was about how I couldn't do in-person work, so I was having to resort to only online. And you've decided to publish publicly that when it's a fluctuating time, particularly during COVID, I'm out here working and going to hotels.
Circuit?
I'm working the circuit? What does that mean? Yep, I'm sorry, I'm reading it again and my mind's being blown again. Pre-COVID, touring cities from Newcastle, Melbourne and Perth proved more lucrative for full-service sex work compared with stripping or dominatrix work. Well, I've never done stripping or dominatrix work, so I don't know why I would compare the two. What? Doesn't make sense. Clients are friendlier in smaller towns and you feel more relaxed. That's a direct quote attributed to me. Don't think that's the case. I have certainly said that in smaller towns, the client feels more relaxed. Oh yeah, little things like it says, we want to buy a 4-bedder, as in we were at the time looking to buy a house. And I don't say a 4-bedder. Mm-hmm. Like these were just the things that said to me, wait a minute, this is not a direct quote from me because I just don't use that language. The journalist that interviewed me had an accent and a distinctive way of speaking, and it's her. Like, this is the way she speaks. Like, I'm like, these are your words, you know? Anyway, so that's the end of it. The experience was not deeply traumatic for me, right? I just thought, this is fucking bonkers. What the hell? It could have been so much worse. And we did pursue a little bit, because you can put a complaint in. The CEO helped me. Like, I contacted the journalist and said, okay, so I didn't say any of those things. What the fuck? And she said, no, you did. Like, I've got it recorded. And I went, well, you didn't ask my permission to so either you're lying that you have a recording and you made this all up, or you did record me and that's illegal because you didn't ask, and it's a 2-party consent state where I live and where she lives as well. So that's a problem. But it ended up, it didn't end up following through with anything because I just got over it. And realistically, like you don't get anything. I'm not going to, whatever. So I gave up on that. But it just really taught me that they can literally make up anything they want and pretend that it's the truth. And then your peers think that you said that, and the wider community thinks that it's true of all sex workers.
Even though you said that wasn't hugely traumatic for you, as discussed, there are various reasons why, because you've had that experience and that support network. There are a lot of people for whom that would be really, really upsetting. Like the feeling of being violated by the press, of feeling like your image, your control of your image was wrested away from you, would be really, really devastating, even if it doesn't say anything that's particularly inflammatory or controversial. It could do some serious damage.
Yeah, absolutely. And because there's so many little things, that we don't. There's certain things on there that could have, made someone think a certain way. And as I said, it wasn't a big deal in that. But people, they just don't realise the impact that sort of stuff can have.
As Jenna mentioned in that story, it was important to get ahead of that narrative. And there is an advantage to having that experience with the media, as we just said, and a good support network and peers that you can rely on. But I have heard people say, in the case of individual workers saying something that was printed or aired differently to what was agreed, why would they think anyone from the media is on their side? It's really easy to blame someone in hindsight, and often the journalists are reaching out in a way that seems really approachable, down to earth and sincere. It really doesn't take someone exceptionally naive to believe the words that the journalists are saying is true. And perhaps they even mean what they say. Their intentions may be good. But when it comes to creating the final article, their editor might push for something more catchy or even edit the headlines themselves. As you said before, there is so much pressure on journalists, and I don't believe that they're victims of a system, but I believe we're all victims under capitalism of this drive to get numbers and to achieve and to push out more content and to get stuck in that churn. Sometimes they weren't necessarily being sincere or forthcoming at all, but they consider their work harmless and they don't fully realise the impact of the way that they portray people and the repercussions of what they publish. And in the worst case scenario, and I truly hope this is an infinitesimally small minority, they are fully aware, but they simply don't care. Either way, we're all human and we're all capable of falling victim to someone seeming kind and helpful and being misled. And particularly for new workers and those who mean really well and haven't been particularly jaded by the system in its various facets, anyone can fall prey to this kind of thing.
Yeah, well said. I mean, I think that they really, that has been my experience. They are lovely to you because, I mean, that's the job. They want to get you to speak, and that's where the skill is. And I don't want to offend people here, but a lot of what I read, the skill is not writing. And that article was a perfect example of it. The grammar was atrocious. But yeah, they're very, very lovely to you, and that has been my experience. Is that even the ones, and this kind of comes back to this whole thing about lived experience, being the expert, all of that, which is even the ones who I can tell what they've written is trying to be so supportive, but they've still said the wrong shit. They've still taken things a different way, or they've tried to say something really supportive, but I'm like, it's actually quite problematic that you've said that. Even the really good ones. So yeah, as you said, the ones, even when they have the best of intent, they still get it wrong. And I do think a lot of that is that they are under such a crazy time crunch that they just there's no way they've got the time to it's not long form journalism most of the time. And it's not even that they're nice to you. They will say things to you like they will make points from your perspective. They will say, yeah, it's funny because people say this and it makes you think blah, blah, blah. And you're like, yeah, that's my point. They will be 100% on your side, and presumably they go to the other side because obviously all the time they've got to get both sides. They've got to get sex workers who know what it's like to be a sex worker and people who think that sex workers should all die, because that's the two sides of the argument. Presumably they're saying the same thing in the reverse to that other person. My second negative experience was a lot more recently. And again, I don't want to name the publication, but I do think it's very easy to work out because I think we have to, in order to tell this story, it's important for us to share that this publication presents itself as being the publication for women. So yeah, this brand it's all about women. It's all about uplifting women and telling women's stories and supporting women, which I think is really relevant. So in this case, I was contacted about writing a piece for this company, which awesome, right? Great. I write it, so I have full control over what's said in there. Cool. I really liked the idea of the piece. I really enjoyed writing it, and I was really proud of what I wrote. I think it was something that really balanced the balance I'm always trying to walk, which is being engaging and giving a bit of juicy details while also making sure I had advocacy points in there. And that's always what I'm, working on. So I was really proud of that. And I sent that in, and that was ages ago. So I'd totally forgotten about it. And that's right, it was a long weekend. And on a Sunday night, it was that long weekend before Easter, or around Easter, I guess, where we also have Anzac Day. So the reason I'm sharing that is that for people not in this country, apparently we have a lot of public holidays. Apparently that's not the case everywhere else.
So many.
And so what we ended up with this year and a lot of years was a 3-day weekend followed by a 3-day weekend, which meant that the week in the middle was only 3 days long. Am I right? Yeah, that's what it was. I never understand public holidays because I just don't work to that schedule. And that also was in school holidays. So as a result, a lot of companies had staff shortages at that time because a lot of people were like, fuck it, I'm taking off those 3 days and I'm going to have, I can't do the maths. What is it? A 12-day weekend, a 10-day weekend, I don't know, whatever, a long break. So Sunday night, I get somebody messaged me and was like, OMG, you're famous. And I was like, oh, what's this? And I opened it and they'd sent me the social media post about this article.
Sorry, but that's like truly the most annoying way to let somebody know that there's an article about them, or an article that they've done.
I know. They're not a worker. They're like someone I haven't seen in 15 years. And I think they were just like, oh yeah, like they just saw it as a positive. They were like, get it, girl. Like they didn't, So what they sent me was this image, so a social media post with a caption. In the image is a photo of me, and it has quotation marks, and it says, I earn $10,000 a week and helped a couple explore outside their 20-year marriage. Now, the couple thing is weird because I've helped many couples explore like that. It's just odd that they pulled that out. And then when you go and click on it, there's this kind of bio, it's gone now, but there's this sort of introduction that's been written in first-person language. So it's been written as though it's me saying it. It absolutely suggests that I'm saying it. Like it's not in quotation marks, but it's in first person and there's my picture there, right? And then all the media posts that accompanied it and the social media posts and the headline say in quotation marks, I earn $10,000 a week. And then the piece that I had written was behind a paywall. So the part that I had consented to and that actually was my words couldn't be seen. But all of this other nonsense was out there publicly. I'm just going to read, it's quite long. I'll read part of the letter that I sent through. I said, as a member of a marginalised community, president of the National Sex Workers Association, and someone who advocates for the rights of sex workers, I face incredible public scrutiny, and the false claim that I earn an exorbitant amount of money is not only misleading, but also puts me and my family at considerable risk, especially given that I see my clients in my own home. I also have concerns about the impact that this will have on my income, given you've just essentially told my entire client base that I'm extremely well off and apparently have no need for their custom. As outlined in what I submitted for this piece, which is behind a paywall, so I can only pray has not been edited beyond recognition, the vast majority of my time is spent on unpaid advocacy and volunteer work. I very much rely on the bookings that I do have to pay my bills and to maintain a very modest savings account. Now, when they had asked me to submit this piece, they'd asked for me to answer a couple of really basic questions. And one of those questions was, what do you earn? And I very specifically said, I'm not comfortable disclosing what I earn. And I'm also not comfortable with a made-up figure. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting that I had that foresight to say that, because I thought, oh, you could just put some random number there. And I was like, well, no, because I actually just don't think I either undersay what I put out there and that's a lie, or I say I put, I'm just not comfortable with that. And I don't think that's not what people need to know. So I had specifically said that. The issue in here where it's not strictly, where I could give them a bit of leeway, I guess, or it's not strictly their fault, is that there was a third person mediating this dialogue. So it appears that comment by me saying, I'm not comfortable filling this out, blah, blah, blah. I said, but this is my rate. This is what I earn for one booking. That, it seems, was not passed on. So I went to the company's editorial guidelines and I pulled out some quotes from that, which just, Australian Press Council has all these things about journalistic principles and blah, blah, blah. The article in question flagrantly violates these principles, has caused me substantial distress, and has potentially jeopardized my safety. And I feel like now that I'm reading this back with hindsight, it feels a bit hyperbolic, but I was genuinely fucking scared. I was really scared because it was just now public knowledge, and people will believe what they read, that I earn over $500,000 a year. And I'll tell you this much about my income. It's not that, okay? I'm sorry. And I hate that I felt forced to actually disclose not specific numbers, but the kind of income I do earn about this, that's what I fucking resent that, because it's absolutely nowhere near that. Actually, I looked this up the other day for someone else. I Googled the average wage in Australia. And according to Google, I do sit above the average wage. That's all the information I'll give you. It's nowhere near that. My God. I was about to say I wish, but I don't actually, because that would mean I wouldn't get to do all the fun stuff that I get to do in my life.
I wish mine was, just in case anyone wants to give me $500,000 a year. Just putting that out there.
Yeah. If you're like, oh, which one do I give the $500,000 to?
Yeah, Holly will take it.
Go to Holly.
Yeah, thanks.
Jenna will also take it, just to be clear.
No, you've made your stance clear. You're a woman of principle. Let's not.
No, but it's not.
No, come on.
It's just that I don't want to do the level of work that comes with earning that much. But if the money comes for free, I'll take it.
Convenient.
I said, along with the concerns that this has raised for myself and for my family, I'm deeply troubled by how irresponsible it is to advertise these kinds of dollar amounts and include flippant pseudo quotes saying things like, quote, honestly, life's pretty great, about an industry that faces significant stigma and discrimination and an increased risk of violence as a result of that. I'm sure that there are a handful of sex workers earning $10,000 a week, but I'm absolutely not one of them, and it is not in any way representative of what somebody entering the industry might be able to expect. Your stated purpose is to make the world a better place for women and girls. I've absolutely given away who it is now. And I can't understand how on earth this kind of reporting is any way in line with that. I mean, that is just horrifically irresponsible in my mind. I said, furthermore, I've attempted to address these inaccuracies by leaving comments on the article and sending direct messages to your team. Now, so as I said at the beginning, this was over a long weekend and during a week where a lot of people were not working. And it was the first thing, when my friend sent that through to me, I went, fuck. And I went, and it's a fucking Sunday night on a fucking long weekend. And there's nothing I'm going to be able to do about this. It was obviously a scheduled post, and that's that. But, so I commented very, very quickly saying, I think I said $10,000 a week, I wish. And then I shared it to my story. And so a bunch of other workers and allies got on there and commented. And I was absolutely astonished. I was blown away by by the support. So incredibly appreciative of those people. Thank you. But my comment disappeared.
My comment was hidden, actively hidden.
And a few other comments disappeared as well.
Yes. Yes. Which I'm very skeptical about, but yes. Because then the next 40 or something weren't hidden once the furor really built. But carry on.
Yes.
Carry on.
But the first couple were no longer there. Yeah. Basically, it was a hate crime against somebody you love. No. I sent DMs, of course. And then that's when somebody sent me the link to their editor. Somebody posted, I think, with quotes from their editorial guidelines and the link to make a complaint. So again, super grateful to those people. I sat down and wrote an angry letter. So now I'm trying to remember. I think, so the post disappeared on the Monday. So it was up for, I want to say, about 20 hours, which is the time when people see posts. Posts much older than that aren't featured in any algorithm. So all of the damage had been well and truly done. I got a response from the social media, or I got, a DM back from the brand, which presumably was the social media team, saying, hey, so sorry, we've just seen this and we got your email. We've taken the post down. The editor-in-chief or whatever is going to call you tomorrow. Or can they call you, I think. My kind of demands in that letter, I had written a few things. I demand they take immediate action by publishing a retraction and a correction of the false information. Number 2, issuing a public apology for the distress and potential harm. And number 3, ensuring that any staff writing about sex work have completed sex worker awareness training sessions with a sex worker peer organisation. I would be more than happy to put you in contact with the appropriate people to arrange this if you contact me. So spoiler alert, not one of those things has happened. So then I had the phone call and look, again, the person on the phone was incredibly polite, very apologetic, of course. Gave me a few explanations, did say that the message about me not wanting to disclose my income wasn't passed on. And I said, okay, yeah, reasonable. But why did the journo then just make up a fucking number and put it out? Surely that's not standard practice, right? Surely that's not how that works.
Even if they did want to make up some sort of figure, they put it in quotes. They put it that you had said, I earn... Yeah. So it's one thing to do something as crazy as making it up, but to put it in your words, crazy.
So what I think is interesting, I wonder if this is intentional. I don't know enough about journalism standards or whatever, but on the image, it wasn't in quotation marks as in the double.
Right.
It was the singular apostrophes. And I wonder if that's a workaround because it actually isn't a direct quote.
Sure, it's quoting the article.
But it reads as though it's a quote, like it fully, and then if you clicked on it and you went to the article and there was that paragraph that I didn't write, there were no quotation marks or inverted commas, whatever.
But because
none of that. There was just my face and first person.
Yes, exactly.
So they've actually very intentionally made it look like both of those things were quotes from me without doing the things that make it definitely quotes from me. But we all know that media literacy is fucking at an all-time low. There's no way people didn't think they were direct quotes from me. So in terms of the social media stuff, the comments, because I had also commented on on X and on Facebook, because I was panicking. I can't tell you how fucking upsetting this was. I thought a client that I'd seen once who didn't particularly like me was going to come and rob me that night. That's genuinely how I felt. I mean, the joke might have been on them because I don't have that kind of money, so they would have got in and gone, oh, this house is pretty average, actually. But, it would have been horrifying for me. So I was going around commenting on them all, being like, this isn't true, and all those comments disappeared. What the editor said to me, she said, I've spoken to the social media team and they've assured me that they have not deleted a single comment or hidden comments. They've done nothing like that. But what they explained is they do have filters set up, like an auto mod kind of situation that will, filter out certain things. which is all well and good until you think that the comments that I left, I mean, the very first comment I left was $10,000 a week, I wish.
Yeah.
What in that was filtered out by an auto mod?
Yeah.
There's no swearing in there. There's nothing hateful. Like, what was that?
Yeah.
It doesn't, I mean, so I don't believe them.
I looked at the comments at the time and there were no keywords that either you or myself had said that would have triggered anything like that. And any of the words that we had used that you might go, like, for example, the word media or something like that had been used by so many other people whose comments were left. So it was very clearly a decisive act. Somebody had pressed a button. But, of course, we can't prove that. No. They've got their little plausible deniability.
To delete a comment, that's one thing. But to see that somebody's written in first person, like either they were so, like they didn't even look at who it was that had made the comment, or they did see this is the person that's been written about, we're getting rid of it. Like either way, it's either incredibly irresponsible that they just delete comments without even looking at who's made the comments and the context, or they knew exactly what was going on. This is the person mentioned in the article saying that what we've said isn't true, so we're getting rid of it.
The other thing about that that's really horrible is that they weren't just deleting the comments. The comments themselves were hidden. So I don't know about you, but there's a big difference. I couldn't see that my comment was not visible anymore. And I don't know if you had clocked it at the time.
True.
But we thought our comments decrying the article were still there at least. And it wasn't until I'd looked from another account that I could see that everyone else's comments were there, but yours and mine were gone. So effectively we thought...
You were the one that told me that my comment wasn't there.
Yeah.
That was,
And at first I thought it was just a little glitch because so many people were commenting on it or something like that. But
happens.
eventually I realised that I went and tested it from my account that hiding a comment, when you do that on Instagram, it pops up saying this person will not know that their comment has been hidden. You can still see your comment there and it looks to you like you've said what you need to say.
That your voice has been heard. Yeah.
But it has just been hidden, which is really, really, really quite awful.
I just had a thought that there could be some kind of filter about comments from, accounts that have been flagged as being not safe for work accounts or something like that. But all of the other comments were also from sex workers. Well, not all of them, but a lot of them. So that also doesn't kind of fly. So I spoke to her about, that's right. Of course, she was like, the person who wrote it is away on a few weeks leave. So I can't find out why she just made up a number and misattributed quotes to you. Like, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How convenient.
Cool.
Yeah.
And she's like, sorry we didn't get back to you sooner. Like we're on a skeleton staff at the moment. And I said, yeah, look, I figured that was the case. And I would suggest that you should have policy where you're not putting out bullshit misinformation about marginalized communities at times when you have skeleton staff. Like, just put your fucking fluff pieces out at that point, Like, that's not the time to be putting something out that could destroy someone's life. Okay? And she was like, yes, we'll have a think about that or whatever. I don't know. Again, I don't want to, like, she was genuinely nice and did apologize overall and for a number of things. I didn't hate her, but the whole system is what it is. Towards the end, she said to me, I'm happy to be guided by you. Would you like us? Like, the article was down at that point. She said, I can reinstate it. We can not reinstate it. I can write up a couple of new headline options for you and get a new graphic designed, send it all through to you, and then post it with your approval. And I agreed to that one because, as I said, I was really proud of the thing I'd written and I wanted it out there. Oh, she did mention the paywall thing. She was like, the reason it's paywalled is because we just do that to protect you, because when we're writing about things that are like of a more sensitive nature, blah, 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 we put it behind a paywall so it's seen by fewer people. And I'm thinking, right, but you also publish it on a long weekend when you've got a skeleton staff. So if you think you're aware that it's a sensitive subject, you're telling me that's why it's behind a paywall. Also, it's content that I wrote and that you're profiting from. So, I don't know what the laws are about that, but that just doesn't seem right to me. And this is advocacy, and I fucking need people to read it. Like, I don't want it to be behind a... Like, I've signed up to do media. I don't want it behind a pay. Anyway, whatever. It is what it is. They've got to get clicks. They've got to get paid somehow, but...
And the salacious headline was not behind a paywall. All of the advocacy was, but the attention-grabbing,
the terrible part was not behind a pay line. Exactly, a paywall. Exactly. So I said, look, I'm happy with that if you do some example rewrites and send it through to me. And she did quite quickly, and that was months ago, it was Easter, and I haven't opened the email. I feel a bit guilty about that because I agreed to it. I said, yeah, I would like it to still go up. But I honestly I was really upset about the whole experience. I felt hurt. I felt vulnerable. I felt like I'd been put in harm's way by a company that makes all of its money on protecting and supporting women. So I thought that was pretty fucked. And again, this is, people turn around and say to me, oh, you've got to do media training. What the fuck would media training have helped? How would that have helped me? In either of the two examples I've given, I did all the right things. The second one, I wrote it, so it's not like I was taken out of context. The first one, my words were just made up. So there's literally nothing I could have done unless the media training was don't ever talk to the media. But that comes back to what we've said at the beginning, where that's actually not necessarily an option because they will find somebody else to speak to them, and it will likely be somebody who doesn't have support around them, doesn't have a regular client base who, I hope that if the media destroys me publicly, that my regular clients are, they actually know me and they're going to keep coming to see me. But not everyone's in that situation. So anyway, all right, that's that story.
Do you think the excuse for, I don't know, what was this person going to get back to you about? The journalist was going to say why they came up or made up this number.
Yeah, they were. She did say when she comes back from leave, I'll speak to her about like how that happened. And she didn't say she'd come back to me.
Do you think that's in the email? You haven't
No.
Right.
Sorry, I have opened the email she sent me. I haven't opened the link in it, which took me to the proofs of the rewrite.
Right.
Yeah,
she rewrote.
But okay. She said she was going to get to the bottom of it when the writer got back from leave.
Yeah,
she
I'd like
didn't
to know
offer
that.
this, but I said, yeah, I'd really love to hear back from you when you find out what went wrong there.
Yes.
She didn't agree to doing that. But
I think you're on
but the outcome is I just fucking made it up. And probably I made it up because that's what you guys tell us to do,
Yeah, true. Yeah.
I imagine that putting the text on the card was probably a social media team. I assume that would have been another department that actually did that, and they've pulled that text from the intro thingy that she wrote. Anyway, I have waffled on and on and on, but I guess we wanted to just quickly cover a few other little points. It's almost impossible, I think, to distinguish between a strategic leak of information and an actual leak. So, there's been reporting over the last year or so that we've seen where one worker was outed as being trans, one worker was outed as being a mum, as having a kid. And, our initial reaction to that is how utterly horrible that is for the media to be responsible for outing people, for again, literally putting these people in harm's way. I mean, it's just how is that how does that align with any kind of ethical standard? It doesn't. But I know Holly and I have both gone, or was that actually the worker who's working with a PR agency? Because a lot of workers do work with PR agencies, the online workers in particular, and those that are earning a lot of money online. So many of them have an agency, and that they've actually, consented to this leak being leaked, and it is a publicity stunt. I mean, we all know that happens. We know that celebrities will tell paparazzi, "Oh, I'm going to be at this location at this time," and that sort of thing. But there's just no way of, I don't think there's any way of knowing whether the worker has consented to it or not. Like, it's just, I don't think you can tell. So a lot of the kind of outrage around all of that is valid, is so valid, but it's, I don't know. I don't have a point there, just that I can't tell.
I think it's important that people do understand that when you see these clickbaity articles and things like that, definitely take them with a grain of salt, because they may have been really misconstrued by various journalists. But also, how often are they actually working hand in hand with a worker? So it's not so much to defend journalists, but just to let you know that sometimes these are PR exercises, and it is fully with the consent of the worker. And then you were saying, you said really well the other day, Jenna, to me, that about how there is like a line in between as well, where there is some level of collaboration, but it might get taken to one extreme or another.
Yeah, actually, funnily enough, there's an article that's supposed to be coming out today about me, so I might have a third story to add to this. But speaking to the journo the other day, she was sharing some information with me about another worker that she had spoken to, who's one of those workers who does who's quite high profile and does a lot of those. You know, they'll do these stunt things where it's, you know, sort of like a big gangbang, or the Byron Bay Schoolies thing was a couple of years ago. That was, you know, whatever. These big things that they know are going to get them lots of publicity. And she said to this journalist that when one of those articles comes out, her income doubles that month. So, you know, and the journalist was bringing that up to me because she was asking if I felt that sort of stuff, those big stunt outrage bait things, have a negative impact on other sex workers, and if we feel like pressure from our clients then to do that sort of thing. And my response was no. Like, I've not had a single client come up to me and go, oh my God, are you going to go to schoolies and have sex? Like, no. No. Yeah, I genuinely do not know. Like, Holly's just pointed out that I may have given something away. I don't know which one. Like, people are always saying, what do you think of X worker? I don't know who any of these people are. I'm fucking clueless. Actually, the journalist at one point, I was like, oh yeah, she's blah blah, right? And the journalist was like, no. And I was like, oh fuck, I don't know. Like, I genuinely don't know. So if it sounds like I'm talking about a particular person, I might be, I might not be. I got no idea. My point is, all of this sensational stuff is intended to be sensational. It is a stunt. It earns them income, and I think that's great for them. I don't think it personally, I don't think that has an impact on anyone else other than them and the people who are thus signing up and paying their money. It doesn't mean it's something that I would do. No, obviously not, because it's not what I do, you know. But I don't think it's inherently harmful. I don't think it's a sign of the downfall of society. You know, I mean, I did a gangbang for my 30th and publicised that, and, you know, it was great. What a great story I've got to tell now. Love that. And then finally, the other thing is the amount of times somebody has said to me, oh, I saw you in the blah, blah paper. And I'm like, what? And then I have a little Google and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. That I didn't speak to that publication. I had no, and it's just like some kind of like a syndication kind of thing, it seems to be, where they've used like some of the quotes or like a section of the article from some other paper. Like, presumably it's because they're owned by the same conglomerate or whatever. And actually, in this article the other day, when I sent through my photos, because they always ask if there are photos they can use, and I've got a little album of safe for work photos to send to journalists, because obviously if they go looking for photos of me, they might find things that they can't print. And she said to me, just so you know, those will go into our system, so they can now use those photos in the future. You know, and I did agree to that. They're fine. They're all public photos. They're, you know, they've got the credits written on them and whatever. But yeah, the amount of times I've appeared in some paper or someone's written about me and it looks as though, you know, I'm quoted in it. It looks as though I took part in this thing and I've never even heard of the paper. It happens.
This question was submitted by somebody online who we don't know. You're anonymous to us. So if we're really critical of this question, then it's not personal.
It might be someone we know, though, like that we do know, but we don't know that we know them.
Somebody that we do know, but
Based
we don't
on the
know
way it's
that we
written,
know them.
Yeah, I reckon it is.
Well, true. Okay. Somebody that we may know, but we don't know if we know.
We don't know. No.
If one of your friend's husband decided to book with you, would you go ahead with the booking? If yes, would you tell your friend? If no, do you still tell your friend? Or is it covered under the discretion part of your service? Take it away, Jenna.
All right, there's a lot of things here. I have never, ever, ever proclaimed to exercise discretion about people that aren't my clients. So somebody contacting me and us not having a booking, I don't owe them anything in my mind. I also have never professed to be the most discreet sex worker because I have no shame about my work. I don't think it's something that should be overly discreet beyond, that it's people's personal lives. But I'm like, I'm not doing anything wrong. If discretion is, I've said this before on the show, I think if discretion is necessary on your end, that's your job to take care of. I'm not going to be going out of my way. I'll go along with whatever you're doing, but I'm not, I don't see it as my job. But this question is interesting. I have a line, and it's different to Holly's line. I think everyone has their own line. The line for me is that if it's a friend's husband, no. If it is somebody, an acquaintance that I know who happens to be married, that's fine by me. But if their partner is my friend and their husband reaches out, abso-fucking-lutely not. And I will judge the hell out of them. This happened to me where a friend had separated from her husband, and not long after that, he reached out to make a booking. I was mortified, to be honest, because this was just somebody that I thought was just my friend's husband, and I'd been around him occasionally, and I just had no idea that suddenly my mind was filled with the idea that he was thinking about having sex with me, and that really freaked me out. And I know that that's a reality of the world, that plenty of people will think that about you, but I just didn't need to know that. We didn't have that kind of relationship, and I didn't need to know it. In that particular case, I did not tell my friend because I don't think he was actually doing anything wrong by her because they had actually separated. And so I didn't think it was helpful at all to pass that on. I thought it's only going to make her feel hurt, even though he's not done it wrong by her, it's still going to hurt her. And they're probably going to fight about, it's just not helpful. But I thought, what the fuck, dude? This is a friend of mine. How is that? Go to a brothel. What's wrong? It was the laziness that upset me. The fact that he was like, oh, I'm lonely and depressed and whatever, all the shit when you're going through a breakup. Oh, blah, blah's friend Jenna, she's a hooker. I'll book her. Google it for fuck's sake. But yeah, if I have slept with people who I have known in my personal life, I've had bookings with people that I've known from my personal life who have been married and who have said, is it okay if I book you? And I've said, yeah, I'm fine with that. But yeah, for me, it's if the person that I know from the couple is the one being cheated on, absolutely not. What? As if you'd put me in that position. What the fuck? Anyway, what are your thoughts, Holly?
As if you'd put me in that position. Some people just don't think, do they?
Yeah.
It's so incredibly selfish.
Yeah.
If one of my friend's husbands decided to book me, to start with, you didn't ask, but I think all of my friends' husbands are fuckheads. So, that doesn't
Except
excite
for mine.
And he is the exception. That's why he's my husband-in-law. Very, very gratefully, I absolutely adore him.
That's so true.
But
you absolutely would not want to bang anyone else's husband.
Right? But you're not a friend. You're my wife. So very different. I know it's very spoiled and very pick me, but most of my clients are actually, and if not nearly all of them, are absolutely amazing, and I love spending time with them. So, yeah, a lot of my friends' husbands are just awful. Anyway, hopefully none of them are listening. Do I go ahead with the booking? Absolutely not. I personally don't see people that I know from the real world. I find it really uncomfortable. I feel like when I'm in a booking, I've had this conversation before on this show, but I feel like in a booking I'm such a vulnerable, real, like myself, and it's so genuine and like personal that doing that with people that I'm acquainted with in my real life on a very polite level is just is really weird. It's like mixing two characters, and it feels really weird, and it's not for me. So personally, I could not, just from that standpoint of knowing them outside of just from the perspective of knowing them on a personal level, that is really awkward. But yes, from an ethical perspective of would I assist this man that is married to my friend to cheat on them? No.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Absolutely not. My friends, I'm loyal to a fault. I am somebody who I have had a lot of pain in my life because once I'm locked in with someone, I'm locked in, and I will not betray them. I am so fucking loyal. So that's absolutely not ever happening in my life. And would I tell my friend? Fucking oath I would. If some dude that is some piece of shit that is married to my friend thinks he can come and ask me, that is just crazy. No way. Yeah. In terms of discretion, I think I am like a pretty discreet provider. Not that anyone said that they weren't, but I
say I'm not. I'm not, but I don't say that. I just think
what I mean by that. Yeah. I do sort of, I'm not going to say pride myself on discretion, but I do believe that I go to an extra length as much as possible to really, really be careful with that sort of stuff. And I really, again, that's almost sounds like I'm shading you, but it is really important to me. And I do.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
We're not beholden to some sort of law or policy or oath that we've made. That there's some sort of thing sometimes where people talk to sex workers, and I think they think that we're held to a code of discretion.
This is what I'm talking about. That's what. Yeah, I'm not going to go tell people your secret. Like, of course not. But no. I just don't like this idea that. If the police come and ask a question, I will tell them, and fucking ACAB, but I'll still tell them, because if it's a life or death situation, like, I don't, like, sorry, I will hand over my records if that's what it comes down to. So you probably wouldn't. Really?
Yeah, I probably wouldn't. Depending on, obviously, the circumstances.
Totally.
If I thought, and I have obviously I've had to get restraining orders on clients, so there is that. But I absolutely. If somebody was stupid enough to betray the trust of somebody else that I love to try and ask to fuck me, throwing them straight under the bus. So that's that. It's not an ethical statement necessarily on cheating itself. We've had discussions on this episode before. We've had discussions on this show before about seeing married clients and things like that, and that it is so much grey in that area. But yeah, when it's my fucking mate, you're crazy. No.
Yeah, I think that for me, this whole thing of if you find out somebody is cheating on their partner, do you tell them or not? Which is a whole other, we could do a whole episode on that. I think it depends, actually. For me, it's case-by-case basis. Depends on how close I am to the person and the exact situation. I have been in that situation before, and in that case, I didn't say anything, and I still think that was the right move. They came to an end pretty soon after. Like, it was already going to happen. So I think that was, I didn't think the additional painful information needed to be shared. But if I make the choice not to tell them, I want to be very clear that is absolutely not to protect you. It's to protect them. Like that, I'm never not telling them because I think, oh no, you deserve not, like, fuck no. So if I decide not to, it's because I think that's the better course for them. I should say, though, I've had quite a few of my friends' husbands book me, and I've gone ahead with it and had a fabulous time because the friend knew about it. So that's fine. Not from my personal life. I do think that would be weird. But my peers, I've had a lot of sex workers' husbands.
Yeah, I wouldn't have a problem with that.
And I think it's great.
Yeah.
So that's fine if they know about it.
Totally.
But obviously the way this question is worded, it's that they don't know about it. All right, let's move on to shit people say.
Relevant to the topic of people we know from our civilian lives, I think in the past few years, particularly since starting this podcast, I have become more and more out in my civilian life, which it was, I don't think, ever a huge secret in my life. But, it's more and more out there, and I start to get a few more followers on my various socials from my old civvy life, which... when I say that, I just want to clarify what I mean is I am pretty much Holly 100% of the time now. I live as Holly. So so anything pre-Holly days or in the closet Holly days is sort of almost like a different person. But so a few people have followed me on my various socials, and one of them reached out recently, liked a few photos and sent me something in DMs that was cute and a little flirty and sweet and all very nice and civilized. But a couple of months ago now, I received a DM from him late at night, and he said, "Hey, I'm unsure if you remember me." Well, we were DMing last month, but okay. "Hey, I'm unsure if you remember me. Hey, I'm unsure if you remember me. I've always had a crush on you. Ha. Would you assure visits be private/anonymous?" And firstly, really, really cute that he said he had a crush on me, because I don't want to be incredibly self-deprecating. But anyway, he was always the most adorable young man, super cute looking and super goofy and sweet and adorable, just a really likable person. And I've always just been, again, I know I'm going really self-deprecating, and I know Jenna just rolls her eyes at me every time, but I've always just been a bit of a clown, right? I don't think I've been the high school crush or I've always just been a fucking a doodle. So it's really...
I don't know if any of us have ever felt that way though.
No,
anyway.
but I especially...
Like, I've never been the high school crush.
No,
but,
No, but there's people who are. And there's people among that circle that were more of the desirable. I've always been the funny friend. So it's just really, it's really sweet that that's his take. And I did take that as the compliment it was intended as. It's very, very cute. But... yeah, then would you assure visits be private, anonymous? And bless him, honestly, bless him. I think it's really sweet that he's seen my social media and he's been like, oh, good for her, she's doing this work, and that he's looked at my website or whatever and gone, I'd like to do that. Again, I take that fully as the compliment it's intended. That's really lovely that he would potentially like to procure my services. Fully sweet. But the leap then in thought to go from, well, I might like to see her, but is she going to tell everyone, is icky. It's really yucky, and I know he doesn't mean harm by it. I know that I feel like it's not an unrealistic line of thought to go down, but firstly, the assumption that I'll see you is so naive. The thought that any sex worker will see anyone for money, that we don't have standards or we don't have boundaries, and that we're just open.
And I've got to say, the vast majority will not see somebody that they've known from their personal life.
It is very rare. Majority. Yeah. And that's not for him to know, but that assumption in the first place is like, okay, all right. And then that he is concerned about his own privacy, and that I'm going to go and publish that Jerry has contacted me for a book. Oh shit, did I say his name? No. Kidding, that's not his name. That he has contacted me for, or that we fucked in that he fucked a whore is it's just really, really disappointing. And then further to that is the assumption that I'm going to assure something, or that he needs to get like my guarantee of discretion, and that I don't know. It just, there's so many layers to it that is just really awkward. And like I said, it's not at all offensive, and I think it's really sweet, but it's just so misguided. So I sent him a message back, and I was like, "Hey, sweetie, I don't see people that I know from the real world. It's just a bit awkward, but thanks. Yep. That's really sweet of you," and left it at that. And he never replied. So I think that he found it all a bit embarrassing, probably, to be rejected by a whore who will fuck anyone.
That's such a shame. Yeah. I really hoped he'd respond and go, "Oh yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah. Thanks." Because that's all it, but no.
I'm sure he felt that. I'm sure he felt like, "Oh, of course. Oh, fuck. Now she thinks like, I guarantee you that he feels like a bit of a dickhead."
He's ruined it.
Yeah, which he absolutely shouldn't, because I think he's lovely. But yeah, that's a really awkward misstep there. But very cute.
Jerry. Jerry.
Nice man, I hope he's...
What will we do with you?
I hope he finds whatever he needs in his life, in sex and in love and in life. Really nice man. But I'm not going to assure you visits will be private/anonymous, because I'm not going to see
ain't happening.
You, soz.
So do you know, is Jerry married?
He's not. No.
Right. So what's his concern then?
I think it's because I'm a prostitute, and it's an awful thing to have sex with.
And you can't be trusted.
You can't have sex with a whore.
Right.
Well, it would be shameful. Whether or not I can be trusted, if anyone ever found out that he paid for sex, how would he ever... Never mind that I'm out here being one, but if he was ever touched by one...
With your face out
with
there.
With my face out there fully.
Yeah.
No, the shame, he would never live it down, so I have to,
That's wild. I don't... Because, normally it's the wife that's the worry,
Yeah, absolutely.
How interesting.
And there's not even a girlfriend. Like, I just want... He's not in any sort of relationship at all. Like, there's no... It's purely, I think, hooker stigma, which... he doesn't mean that to be harm, but of course it is...
unintentional.
It is a microaggression. It is a thing that you go, wow, thanks.
But
anyway.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, well. Poor Jerry.
Oh, well. On ya, Jerry.
On ya.
Let's end the episode by saying thank you to our patrons.
Shall we sing it? Shall we do it in a little bit of a Von Trapp style?
You could sing it.
Okay. Thanks to our even more generous somebodies, the Riley, McDonald and Desiree, Framboise, the Ash, the Desiree. Anyway, continuing, the Desiree Framboise, the Ashley Stafford.
What? The song ended?
Yeah.
Okay.
The Rhiannon Rhodes, Lachlan, Timmy, Steve. I was meant to go that 19 going on whatever.
Yeah, quicker is better.
Yeah.
16 going on 17.
Whatever the fucking song is, all right? I'm not from Austria.
Yep. No, it's all right.
Timmy,
just get the names
Steve,
out, babes.
Adele, Leslie, Biggie, NK, Andrew, Wheezy, Mr. E, Simon. I don't know any more songs from that film. Nomad, Luke, Cranky, Not So Witty Comment, Josh, Alex, Damon, and not a 9-incher. He is a 9-incher going on 10 inches.
Always growing. What are other songs from that?
Maria, what should we do about...
It was bad. Yeah. Yes. How do you solve a problem? Hold on.
That's it.
Oh, no, I'm not going to be able to do it. Mr. Love is good at this. He's good at fitting random words into song melodies. Extremely generous. No, that's not even how it goes. Fuck. Oh, rough.
Extremely generous somebody's.
Yeah.
Almost got there.
But this is our best work. This is
actual literal saint.
Yeah.
I nearly got there.
Yep, quite good.
Tim and
quite
Mr.
Good.
Sick Cunt. Thank you all.
Maria probably wouldn't say that one.
Well, depends when she joined the nunnery. Thank you all for supporting our show.
All right, I think that's the end. I think that is, we could not possibly have ended it in a better way. Goodbye, thank you, lots of love.
Thank you.
See ya. Please look out for us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Patreon. Our name everywhere is Somebody You Pod, as in podcast. Our Patreon starts at just $3 a month, and you can get all of our episodes ad-free and a day early, plus bonus episodes, behind-the-scenes action, bloopers, and more. Thank you for taking the time to listen to the voices of sex workers. And remember, somebody you love might just be a sex worker.